The execution chamber of the Veyrith Empire had witnessed the deaths of kings, rebels, generals, and entire bloodlines. But on the morning the human prisoner was brought before Queen Seraphina, nobody expected the strangest execution in imperial history to begin with a single piece of metal. The chamber was enormous, built from white crystal and black stone, with towering pillars disappearing into the golden light above. Hundreds of armored guards stood along the walls, their weapons trained on the prisoner in the center. At the far end of the hall, beneath a massive royal crest, Queen Seraphina sat upon her throne. She was young for a ruler, but nobody in the empire dared mistake youth for weakness. Her long silver-white hair fell over one shoulder, woven with thin golden chains. Her pale blue skin shimmered beneath the light, marked by faint luminous patterns that ran along her neck and cheeks. A jeweled golden crown rested above her pointed ears, and her white and gold royal armor followed the elegant curves of her figure before descending into a flowing crystalline skirt. Her bright blue eyes were cold. She looked down at the human kneeling before her. Elias Thorne, 35 years old. Human. Prisoner. According to the official report, he was a mercenary who had infiltrated a restricted military facility, destroyed 3 security drones, disabled a transport ship, and killed 12 imperial soldiers while attempting to escape. To the Veyrith Empire, that was enough. Seraphina leaned forward. You were given 3 opportunities to surrender. Elias slowly lifted his head. His face was bruised. A cut crossed his eyebrow. His short dark brown hair was messy, and several days of stubble covered his jaw. He wore battered black tactical armor that had clearly been designed for war rather than imprisonment. The armor was scratched and torn in several places, and dried blood covered one shoulder. Yet his expression wasn't afraid. That annoyed the queen. You refused every time, she continued. Elias looked around the chamber. Hundreds of guards. Heavy weapons. Royal soldiers. A throne. A queen. Then he looked back at her. Yea. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. Do you have anything to say before your execution? Elias considered the question. Actually, yes. The entire chamber became silent. Seraphina gestured impatiently. Speak. Elias looked directly into her eyes. You should probably ask your guards what they know about my armor. A few soldiers exchanged confused glances. The queen stared at him. My guards. Elias smiled faintly. Yea. Seraphina leaned back. You expect me to believe that the prisoner knows more about my soldiers than I do. No. Then what do you expect? Elias looked down at his chest. There, beneath the scratches and dust, was a small metallic emblem embedded into his armor. It was almost impossible to notice. A circle. 3 narrow blades pointing upward. And a tiny star at the center. Seraphina looked at it. Nothing happened. She raised her hand. Commander. A tall Veyrith guard stepped forward. Your Majesty. Prepare the prisoner for execution. The commander nodded. Immediately. He turned toward Elias. 2 guards approached. The first reached for Elias's arm, then stopped. His eyes had fallen on the emblem. The second guard noticed it a moment later. His weapon lowered slightly. The commander saw their hesitation. What are you doing? Neither soldier answered. Elias slowly looked up. The queen noticed the change. Commander. The tall soldier stepped backward. Your Majesty. What? His voice became quieter. I believe you should look at the symbol. Seraphina's eyes returned to Elias's chest. What is it? The commander swallowed. I don't know. Elias smiled. That's not true. The chamber became even quieter. The commander stared at him. You. Elias interrupted him. You know exactly what it is. Seraphina rose from her throne. Explain. The commander didn't answer. One of the older guards suddenly dropped his weapon. It struck the crystal floor with a loud metallic sound. Every soldier turned toward him. The old guard's face had gone pale. I've seen that mark before, he whispered. Seraphina looked at him. Way. The old soldier stared at Elias. On the battlefield. Elias said nothing. The queen descended the steps from her throne. Which battlefield? The soldiers' hands began to shake. The siege of Arcturus. Several guards gasped. Seraphina stopped. The siege of Arcturus had happened 19 years earlier. It was one of the darkest battles in Veyrith history. The Empire had lost 12,000 soldiers in a single night. The enemy fleet had been annihilated. The official records said the battle was won by Veyrith forces after a secret military operation. But there were rumors. Stories soldiers whispered when they thought their commanders couldn't hear. Stories about a group of unknown warriors who had appeared during the battle. They had worn black armor. They had carried weapons unlike anything the Empire possessed. And they had fought alongside Veyrith soldiers for exactly 4 to 7 minutes before disappearing. The Empire had never learned who they were. The old guard looked at Elias. We called them ghosts. Elias's expression changed. Just slightly. Seraphina noticed. You were there. It wasn't a question. Elias remained silent. The queen walked closer. Were you one of them? Elias finally answered. No. The queen looked at the emblem. Then why are you wearing their symbol? Because they gave it to me. The commander raised his weapon. That is impossible. Elias looked at him. Is it? You're human. Yes. The ghosts were not human. Elias smiled. That's what your government told you. Seraphina's expression hardened. Everyone out. The commander hesitated. Your Majesty. I said everyone out. The guards looked uncertain. Leave us. Slowly, the soldiers lowered their weapons. One by one, they left the chamber. The enormous doors closed behind them. Now only Seraphina and Elias remained. The queen stood several meters away. You have one chance to explain. Elias leaned against the restraints around his wrists. About 19 years ago, your empire was losing the siege of Arcturus. We won. You survived. Seraphina's expression changed. Elias continued. Those aren't the same thing. The queen's eyes narrowed. What really happened? Elias looked at the floor. Your soldiers were surrounded. Your fleet was damaged. Your command ship had lost communications. The enemy was preparing to destroy the planet. Seraphina listened silently. And then 12 humans arrived. The queen stared at him. 12. 13, actually. Why would humans fight for us? We weren't fighting for your empire. Then why? Elias looked directly at her. Because there were civilians trapped on Arcturus. The queen's face softened for only a second. Elias continued. Children, families, medical workers, people who couldn't fight. You expect me to believe 13 humans crossed into a war zone to rescue civilians they didn't know? Yes. Why? Because they were there. Seraphina shook her head. That doesn't make sense. Elias smiled sadly. That's the problem with humans. We rarely make sense. He looked at the emblem again. The 13 of us entered the planet. And we found your soldiers. How many? Almost 3,000. Alive. Barely. Elias's voice became quieter. The enemy had them surrounded. Seraphina slowly walked toward him. What happened? We broke the encirclement. With 13 people. With 13 humans. The queen stared at him. You're lying. Elias didn't react. We fought for 4 to 7 minutes. Then what? The civilian evacuation ships escaped. And the humans. Elias looked away. 12 died. Seraphina went still. 12. Elias nodded. Only one survived. The queen's eyes moved slowly toward him. You. Elias didn't answer. Seraphina looked at the emblem. Then this symbol. It belonged to them. Why wear it? Because they died protecting people who never even knew their names. The queen's expression changed. For the first time, the arrogance disappeared from her face. But then she remembered why Elias was standing before her. You still infiltrated my military facility. Yes. You destroyed my security systems. Yes. You killed 12 of my soldiers. Elias's expression hardened. They weren't supposed to be there. What does that mean? They were executing civilians. Seraphina froze. That is a lie. Check your records. They were acting under my orders. No. Elias shook his head. Your orders were forged. The queen stared at him. By whom? Elias looked toward the throne. That's why I broke into the facility. Before Seraphina could respond, the doors exploded open. The same commander who had been ordered outside rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty. Seraphina turned. What happened? We intercepted a transmission from the military facility. Continue. The commander looked at Elias. Someone inside the palace has activated the execution network. Seraphina frowned. What execution network? The prison district. Her face went pale. How many prisoners? 387. Why would someone activate it? The commander hesitated. They are scheduled to be executed in 6 minutes. Seraphina looked at Elias. He wasn't surprised. You knew. I suspected. Who? Elias looked toward the commander. Ask your generals. The commander raised his weapon. You accuse the military. I accuse whoever is trying to erase the evidence. Seraphina turned sharply. Seal the palace. The commander nodded. But before he could move, every light in the throne room turned red. A voice echoed through the palace. Emergency protocol activated. Seraphina looked upward. Who authorized that? No answer. Then the palace doors slammed shut. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments in the walls. The commander immediately drew his rifle. Your Majesty, get behind me. Elias laughed. The commander looked at him. What? You're standing in front of the wrong person. A laser bolt struck the wall beside Elias. Seraphina ducked. Guards! No one came. The palace had been locked down. Elias pulled hard against his restraints. The metal snapped. The commander stared. You broke Imperial restraints. Elias rubbed his wrists. They were good. Seraphina looked at him. Who are you? Elias picked up a fallen rifle. Someone who's running out of time. He moved toward the nearest control panel. The automated weapons opened fire. Elias pushed Seraphina behind a pillar. Energy bolts shattered the throne. The queen stared at him. You're protecting me. Don't make it weird. You were about to be executed. Yeah. And now you're saving my life. Also yeah. Why? Elias looked at her. Because you're innocent. Seraphina's eyes widened. You don't even know me. I know enough. The commander joined them. We have to reach the central command room. Elias nodded. Then move. They ran. The palace became a battlefield. Automated turrets fired from the walls. Assassins emerged from hidden corridors. Elias moved with terrifying efficiency. He shot one attacker, dodged another, grabbed a third by the armor and threw him into a wall. The queen followed behind him, using a small energy blade she had taken from a fallen guard. The commander stared at Elias during the fight. You fight like the ghosts. Elias didn't look back. I told you. You are one of them. Elias finally answered. I was the last. They reached the command chamber. Inside, they found dozens of military officers gathered around a holographic map. At the center stood General Kale, the Queen's most trusted military commander. Seraphina stopped. General. Kale turned. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then he smiled. Your Majesty. Seraphina's eyes hardened. You activated the execution protocol. Kale didn't deny it. Yes. Why? Because your reign has become a weakness. The commander raised his weapon. You traitor. Kale laughed. You still don't understand. He looked at Elias. The human does. Elias stepped forward. What do you want? Kale pointed toward him. Your symbol. The room went silent. Elias touched the emblem on his armor. Kale continued. That symbol represents the old human alliance. Seraphina frowned. What alliance? Kale smiled. The alliance that once protected our empire. Elias's eyes narrowed. Kale looked at the queen. Your ancestors made a treaty with Earth. Seraphina stared. That treaty ended centuries ago. No. Kale shook his head. It was never ended. He activated a hidden hologram. An ancient document appeared. A human soldier stood beside an ancient Veyrith queen. The same symbol appeared between them. Seraphina stared in disbelief. Kale continued. The humans promised that if the Veyrith Empire ever faced extinction, Earth would send warriors. Elias looked at the hologram. That treaty was supposed to remain secret. Kale smiled. Until you arrived. Seraphina turned toward Elias. You knew. I knew the treaty existed. Why didn't you tell me? Because your military killed the first humans who came to honor it. Silence. Kale's smile disappeared. That was necessary. Elias slowly raised his rifle. You killed them. They were interfering with imperial expansion. They were protecting civilians. They were humans. Elias's expression became cold. And? Kale stared at him. You really believe one human can change an empire? Elias looked around the room. No. He lowered his rifle. I think an empire changes when its people finally stop being afraid. The doors behind Kale opened. Hundreds of guards entered. Kale smiled again. Then let's see how brave your humans really are. A distant explosion shook the palace. Then another. Seraphina looked toward the windows. The sky was filling with ships. Not Veyrith ships. Human ships. Dozens. Then hundreds. Black Terran warships emerged from hyperspace. The entire palace fell silent. Elias looked up. A transmission appeared above him. Captain Thorne, this is Vanguard Command. Elias smiled. About time. Seraphina stared at him. You knew they were coming. Elias shook his head. No. Then how? He touched the emblem on his armor. This isn't just a symbol. The emblem suddenly illuminated. A tiny blue light appeared at its center. It's a beacon. The queen stared at him. You called them. No. Elias looked toward the fleet. They've been looking for me. Outside, the human fleet descended toward the planet. The Veyrith guards slowly lowered their weapons. Even General Kale took a step backward. Elias looked at him. You made one mistake. Kale's voice trembled. What? You thought I was a prisoner. Elias stepped forward. I was never alone. The battle lasted less than an hour. The human fleet disabled the traitor ships without destroying the civilian vessels. Veyrith soldiers loyal to the Queen joined the fight. General Kale was captured alive, and the prisoners scheduled for execution were released. When the fighting ended, the palace was damaged, but the throne still stood. Seraphina returned to the chamber. Elias was standing beside the broken balcony, looking at the stars. She approached him. You saved my empire. Elias shook his head. No. She looked confused. Then what did I save? Elias looked back at her. You saved it. You ordered the executions stopped. You exposed the generals. You chose your people over your military. Seraphina looked at the emblem on his armor. And you? Elias smiled. I just showed up. The queen laughed softly. You are impossible. People say that. She looked toward the human fleet. Will you leave? Eventually. Why? I've got a ship waiting. She looked at him. You could stay. Elias raised an eyebrow. Is that an order? No. Good. She smiled. It is a request. Elias looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned toward the stars. "I'll think about it." Seraphina smiled. For the first time in centuries, the Veyrith Empire had an ally it had once forgotten. And across the galaxy, a new story began to spread. A human prisoner had been brought before an alien queen. She had ordered his execution. Then her guards saw what he was wearing. They recognized the symbol. And suddenly, everyone in that execution chamber understood the truth. The man they thought was a prisoner